Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Health and Wealth Podcast with your hosts, Tim and Carter.
What's trending, Enrichers? Carter Wilcoxon, founder of CSI Financial Group here, with my co-host and former wealth advisor, Tim James, founder of
chemicalfreebody.com and your new health advisor. This is the show where we reveal the connection between physical and financial abundance.
Hey, welcome back, Enrichers. Carter Wilcoxon here, coming to you live the day after the Super Bowl, Rams and the Bengals, which was a pretty decent game. I believe everybody liked it, but I think for most of our listeners, especially those who are a little bit older than our guest today, you got a chance to enjoy a really cool halftime show. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, with all of that being said, I am joined here by my fantastic co-host, Mr. Chemical Free Body himself, Tim James, coming back to you from Portland, Oregon, by way of Idaho.
Yes, Carter, I haven't even had time to shave. We've just been traveling. I put about 2,000 miles on my rig in the last 2 weeks.
Man.
So right now I'm going to put some frankincense and myrrh in my mouth to make sure that I'm healthy for all this extra traveling. Watch.
Nice.
For those listening, most people are kind of familiar with frankincense and myrrh because it's in the Bible, and for those that are well, let's just ask Pavlo. You know about essential oils over there?
Honestly, not really.
Yeah, it's crazy because like over in Europe, like everybody knows about them. It's just like everybody knows. So over in Egypt, there's this story. Actually, I got this. I got a long story here. So this is really cool. So when the pharaohs, they did this back in the day. So when the working class, basically the slaves, right, they were just using and abusing them, build the pyramids, do all this stuff. And they had all these slaves living in these cities. Well, because they didn't have infrastructure, they had a lot of urine and feces in the streets and poor access to water. There was dead goats in the water supply. And of course, people were sick because they had a shitty environment. Well, so these plagues came in. Right? The plagues came. No, the plagues didn't come. The environment created the sickness. That's what happened. Right? So what happened was there's these people, they were called thieves. And they were going around to all these sick people and breaking into their huts and their places and stealing all their stuff. But they weren't getting sick from the plague. And the Pharaoh was like, what the hell are these people doing? This is very interesting. So he got them arrested and he brought them to me. He's like, okay, I don't care you're stealing stuff, but he's like, what, how are you not getting the plague? What are you doing? Well, these thieves were also traders. And one of the things they traded was essential oils, right? So essential oils are concentrated plants, basically from leaves and barks and stems and roots and stuff like this and nuts and seeds. They squeeze and extract the essence out of them and concentrate it. And this is a concentrated form of medicine. Remember, Hippocrates said, let thy food be thy medicine be thy food, right? So they concentrated this stuff, and they were putting things on their body like clove, eucalyptus, lemon, as an example, rosemary, and let's see, where's another one here? Clove bud. I talked about that. Cinnamon, and stuff like that. So this mixture is what they were dousing on their bodies, and it was keeping them alive so that they could go, because the plague wouldn't affect them because they had this plant medicine. So there's a company here, I won't name names, but there's a company out there, it's an essential oil company. They have a product called Thieves, named after that. And then 4 of the people that worked at that company broke off, started another essential oil company, and they have a product called On Guard that's very similar. So that's the story of essential oils from Pharaoh's time. They've been using it a long time, but over here in America, we just don't know about it. Why? Because it works. It works, and heaven forbid we actually have things that work.
Interesting.
Now more people know. Get some essential oils.
Now we know. Well, I'm still waiting to hear the whole frankincense and myrrh, though.
Well, that's kind of we'll have to save that for another deal.
Okay.
Surprise, but you can look it up in the Bible. But these are 2 very powerful. That you put them together, there's a synergy too. But these things will keep you healthy, and a lot of people are using for cancer as well.
Wow. All right. Well, hey, Enrichers, we're very pleased to be joined by our guest today, Pavlo Huda, which come to find out, and we're going to talk a little bit about this, originally it was supposed to be Gouda. Of course, that's kind of like a cheese, right? So
yes, actually, that's what people compare it. Yes.
yes, maybe that's why I don't know, your ancestors, whatever the translation, they were like, no, we don't want to call them cheese. We're going to call them Huda instead of Gouda. So anyway, Pavlo, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So, let's go ahead and go back to your story. Obviously, and for those of you who are listening, you can't see Pavlo. He is he's a very young advisor, been in the industry for couldn't be that long because you're not that old, but
right.
We love hearing these stories about, especially the young advisors that are getting into the business and, more the millennials that are starting to be attracted to being in the financial advisory space. So with all that being said, let's go back and find out, for our Enrichers listeners today, what was it that sort of sent you down that path to have, maybe it's a heart for helping people, or maybe you're a numbers guy or whatever. So share with the Enrichers on really your original starting path towards this industry.
I would say it probably all started in college. So I went to college first before I went to 4-year school to study accounting. I actually was thinking about being an accountant first. And I was probably, as you said, kind of numbers guy, somebody who enjoys doing crunching numbers and solving problems. So I was looking into accounting, and I was taking some economics classes. And that's probably what actually changed me, my view on the whole thing related to finance and economics and accounting. And after taking a few classes, I told myself, oh my God, it's so much knowledge out there, so much information, so many things people don't even know and understand. And I want to know it. I want to learn it. I want to use it. And I finished my 2-year school, got my associate degree, and I said, okay, I'm transferring to 4-year school, and now I'm going to get my econ and finance majors. So I transferred to Geneseo. It's a SUNY system school, state system. And yes, that's probably where actually I started building the love to economics and finance. And probably I would say, when you start to understand that you know a lot of things and people don't really even want to understand it, but you can help them using that information and using that knowledge, that's probably what brought me where I am right now, because it was something that just trying to spread that knowledge and spread that information and help people, because I know something that could be helpful to them. And I enjoy it. Every day I show up at work, that's what I do, and that's what I love. And when you see people opening their eyes like, wow, do you really know it? How it works? Can you explain me? It kind of drives me, that feeling of being able to share information. And, it's kind of like being a teacher in school, right? When you talk to kids and trying to explain them some things, and they learn, and they learn how to do mathematics, for example. And here you show people how to save money, how to build a portfolio, right? How to save for retirement. And that's something probably drives me every day, I would say.
Yeah. So since you're a numbers guy, I'll assume that, you kind of sort of took to numbers at an early age, right? Like
sort of. You see, when I was young, I was so focused on being a tennis player. So again, I was playing a lot of tennis. I was competing, and I thought I would be a great tennis player. But at some point, I think I was 14, maybe 15 years old, and my parents started to tell me that you got to think about the future, because nobody knows what's gonna happen. You might break your leg, or something gonna happen, or you might not become a really good tennis player, and you don't want to be a coach for the rest of your life. And I didn't want to. And
not a tennis coach, but maybe a financial coach anyway, right?
Here we go, right? So at that point, it was like, okay, so I got to start focusing on school. And honestly, what I found out that school was, I don't want to say easy, but I liked it. It's kind of, I feel comfortable. I like getting information. I like becoming smarter, trying to read more, learn more. And it's like, people say, if you own or have some information, you control the world, you know. So that's for me, it's like, oh my God, the more I know, the more I can actually do. And I enjoyed school from that point going forward. And again, that's why when I started to go to college, I basically gave up tennis because I was so focused on my school and education at that point.
Gotcha. So, so obviously you have a bit of an accent, and I know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, you shared with me where you're from, and it's obviously very timely. But talk a little bit about what it was like growing up in Ukraine, and then obviously with what's going on right now. Do you have like some family back there that you've got some concerns with?
So I was growing up in Ukraine. I was actually from south part of Ukraine, close to Crimea, really close, probably like 3 hours away. And I was growing up down there. It's a kind of not a really big city, but it's sort of a big city. And then when I was 10, my family moved to Kiev, the capital. And I spent, I think, about 10 years over there. Oh, no, less. Six years.
Okay.
I moved to the US when I was 16. And I graduated from high school over there. And again, my parents were thinking about, you got to get education. And get the best education to get is here in the United States, obviously. And it was pretty straightforward for me, and I really wanted to go. And I moved here. Unfortunately, my parents are still there. And again, given what's going on right now, it's a little bit nervous every day. You don't know what's gonna happen, but things happen. So moving forward.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I couldn't even imagine. So, when was the last time, since your parents still live over there? When was the last time you were there? Or
I went there for Christmas 3 years ago. Yeah, it's been a little while. Yeah, right before I graduated, I went there for Christmas. I stayed there for a few weeks. First time I went there, I stayed there for months. And then second time for a few weeks, and third time for a few weeks. It's like the more I spend time here, the less I want to go there.
Sure.
It sounds a little sad because it's like my home country. But there's so many opportunities here. And I built so many connections, friends, and basically family here now that I don't even want to go there. It's like I'm missing out so much here if I go there.
So have your parents gotten a chance to come over here to visit you here though?
They were supposed to. So the story was I was supposed to I was graduating in 2020. But because of COVID, everything got shut down. Yeah. So they couldn't. They almost bought tickets, but unfortunately they couldn't come over. And and since then, still everything is shut down. So basically, you have no way, if you're going as a tourist, there's pretty much no way you can travel from Europe to US. I mean, people do now, but it's still complicated, and especially given that all the embassies are still kind of closed, so it's kind of hard. So
yeah, international travel, I couldn't even imagine having to deal with that.
It's getting easier from what I hear. It's getting kind of easier and people start to travel, but still.
Yeah. So your parents have never been on American soil then, is what you're saying?
No.
Wow. So now, do you have any siblings?
No, actually, no. Only child.
So you're only child. So I'm just curious. So your parents have never been here. No. So you had to have gotten on a plane by yourself with no other family members to come to the United States. Is that what I mean?
Yes. That was fantastic.
He just swam.
What?
He just swam. He just got a workout.
No, it was just I don't know. I just wanted it so much that it didn't matter at that point. And I flew. So I remember I flew to New York City, and then I had to go to New Jersey to fly from Newark to Kentucky because I went to school in Kentucky first. I went to Murray State for a semester. Okay. But I didn't like it there. It's like in the middle of the fields, and I don't know, too hot. I didn't enjoy it. I want to move somewhere north. And again, I spent there one semester. Yeah, I finished it, and then I transferred to GCC, Genesee Community College, to get my 2 years degree. And yeah, the rest is history. Now I'm here in New York State.
Yeah. So you're in the Rochester area, right?
Yes.
Gotcha. So I've only flown into New York one time, and it was from coming back from Europe, by the way. I flew into Kennedy just to change planes to come back here to Phoenix. So how far is Rochester to the city, to New York City?
If you want to drive, it typically takes about 7.5 hours.
Okay.
7.5. So sometimes you can get in 6.5. So it's sometimes actually depends on the traffic, because the closer you get to the city, sometimes it's so busy.
Yeah.
But usually it's not too far, actually. And you can take a train, which is also 6.5 hours. And now it's so comfortable. They have really nice seats and they have Wi-Fi. So you got options. People sometimes fly, but and honestly, it just takes the same amount of time. Yeah. So
By the time you dock, you got a taxi, and then you got to.
And especially when you end up in Manhattan, you still have to take a train and go there. So
Yeah, totally. So, so how often do you actually get into the city then?
I used to go a lot because of school, so I wasn't involved in a lot of things. And Geneseo has a huge alumni community in New York City, and we would go. Oh God, I would go probably 2, sometimes 3 times a year, for sometimes maybe like 3-4 days, sometimes for almost like 5 days. And yeah, that was amazing. So we would go once a year. We'd go for Fed Challenge. That's a competition between schools at the Federal Reserve for students who do economics and finance. So I was on the team. We would go present. And once a year, we would go just to meet alumni. We would go to all the big firms, try to make some connections, maybe land an internship or something. And sometimes over summer, just because with some friends, just to go. I actually enjoy city so much. I love it. And given that I'm from Kiev, I used to live in Kiev for such a long time, and it's 3.5 million, 3.5 to 4 million city, which is pretty big. And New York City is like 12 million.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel comfortable there. I actually enjoy it. People don't like it. A lot of people don't like it from upstate New York, because it's loud, dirty, rats running around. But I just enjoy it. It's just a feeling of a big city.
Gotcha. So, so Kiev, then, what was that? What are the people like in Kiev, and what's the environment like there?
Tell you the truth, actually, Ukraine is it's a beautiful country. It's really old. It's like really old. It's not as old as Italy, right, or England, but it's really old, and you have beautiful parks, beautiful nature, all those old churches and buildings. It's amazing. And the people are great. Like Ukrainians, if the life is good, no war, everything is good, Ukrainians are one of the most amazing people. And tourists love Ukraine. We have so many people coming to Western Ukraine just to visit and see the old towns and how it feels. A lot of people used to go to Crimea because of the really nice Black Sea. So it used to be really nice, but now I feel like everybody's angry. Everybody's tired. And you can feel it. And that's why I don't feel comfortable there anymore.
Yeah. So
I love the country, but it's just not comfortable anymore. Too much pressure.
So if you were going to go to Kiev, though, and you were going to go to like one of the finest restaurants in town, like what would the food be like there? Like I have no idea what Ukrainian food. When you think about America, obviously it's a melting pot, right? So burgers, pizza, whatever, Americanized food.
Right.
You think about Italy, you think about Italian food, you think about, what I'm saying? So what is the food like there in Kiev?
Pretty much it's the same now. You see, the culture is so intertwined now. Everything is connected. So we have all the same stuff like people have around the world. There are just a few maybe little things that we have that other countries don't, just because it's something specific, like borscht. Probably you've heard about it, right? It's like Ukrainian soup. Or salo. It's like a piece of fat salted with spices. Fat, it's like a pig's fat. So they, do some stuff with that. And it's tasty. It's like a snack. Probably I would call it a snack.
Okay.
So there are little things. But pretty much it's all the same. We enjoy good steak. We like to go to McDonald's. I think they started to have Taco Bell lately. KFC, yeah. So it's pretty much the same. Pizzas,
They're screwed.
Go-to for
The Ukrainian people are completely screwed. McDonald's and
yes, you see, it's just taking over the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was studying this. I was looking at there's a book called The China Study. It was probably the most comprehensive book ever written on nutrition. Really interesting story. The dictator of China at the time, I can't remember the dude's name, but he was dying of cancer. Mm-hmm. So he literally hired 600,000 people in China to start researching everything to try to cure himself. And all that data that got delineated out of there went into the China study with Dr. T. Colin Campbell. It's very interesting stuff. But one thing is, it's funny. It's like China had like hardly anybody was overweight. There very little disease at all. They ate mostly, plants and rice and stuff like that, and a little teeny bit of meat to flavor it. That was it. That was kind of the staple, right? Fresh food. And then in came McDonald's. And then everybody, we want to be like America. Get my Big Mac on a supersized meat. Well, shit. Guess what happened? China got supersized. So their obesity rates started climbing. So this whole thing, the one thing about America is it's not really the Americans over here that wanted this. It's the corporations.
Yes, exactly.
And I had one of my good friends. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, Carter, but I was involved in Rotary. And the guy who had the first McDonald's in Portland, Oregon, his name was Ollie. And he was this old dude. He's probably in his 80s and stuff, and just wanted to give back to the community. He had like 11 McDonald's franchises. And I was like, and somebody was like, yeah, wow, you had 11 McDonald's. Wow, you're in the hamburger business, Ollie. He said, nope, I ain't in the hamburger business. He goes, McDonald's is a real estate enterprise. We're a real estate company. We acquire the best real estate in the world. The hamburgers is just a bunch of BS.
Interesting point.
They don't care about the hamburgers. It's just secondary. We just use that. We have this turnkey model so somebody could invest like $1 million into a McDonald's franchise, guaranteed a 14% return. It was so systematized. And how do they do that? They bring you the most crappy foods possible. Absolute crap foods. There was that guy. Pavlo, did you watch that show, Super Size Me?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, like this dude, he eats McDonald's and he gets his blood test and everything. And then, after about 15, 20 days into it, his doctor's like, I don't know what you're doing, but you got to stop. You're going to die. The guy's
he was just eating so much. I don't know how he could even eat so much.
In like 30 days. He was almost killed himself.
Yeah.
And all he ate was McDonald's. So if that doesn't tell people, but still today, even after that movie and stuff, people just keep lining up and
well, you see, I think it's just because I don't know if it's completely true. They just add so much sugar into the food, and sugar is addictive, so people just can't stop eating it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's exactly right.
All right. Well, I think it's a good time to take a break. We're getting the health segment in a little early. Who would have thought that? Things changing around here at the Health and Wealth Podcast.
Whoa.
All right. So we're gonna take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get into what Pavlo's doing today, because I'm really excited to hear about this algorithm and something you put together, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be cool. All right, we'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Estate planning. What does that even mean? When the inevitable happens for everyone on this planet, your estate plan kicks into action. But first, let's start with what an estate is. An estate is simply everything you own. Now, here's the issue and what needs to be understood when this event occurs. You only have two choices on this plan. Number one, either you plan how your estate gets handed out and distributed to those you leave behind. Or number two, your state decides who gets everything you own. For the first time ever, you can now take complete and total control of this plan that you've been deprived of for most of your life and generations before you. You can get personalized assistance along the way with a team of specialists whose job it is to make sure you have true peace of mind. It's important to understand that estate planning is a journey, and rest assured that our team will be available to you all along the way and at every step. Welcome to eState Plan, home of the last estate plan you'll ever need. To learn more, make sure to reach out to your local advisor licensed with us or go to our website for more information.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here with my co-host Carter Wilcox, and today in the house we've got Pavlo, Huda, and Pavlo. I'm really excited about hearing about your journey and everything. And how old were you when you came over here?
I was 16.
16. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So imagine just flying across the pond when you're 16 and going into a foreign country. That takes some cojones there to do that. It's pretty awesome. You really had a burning desire to do something. So now what I want to talk about this. You have this algorithm that you developed, which is really interesting because, I've seen this, you have these old school people doing certain things a certain way, and this is the way it's got to be. And then at first, things are usually, they just scoff at it. It's ridiculed. Then they throw stones at you, and then it's widely accepted, and you get hugs, right?
Right.
So that's usually how things work. So you developed this algorithm to trade stocks, correct?
Yes, correct.
Right. And so maybe you can get into that. Like, how did you do that? Because what happened now is these guys, younger guys are coming up, or gals, and they have these ideas because technology is like wrapped all around us, everywhere. Mm-hmm. And being able to use technology in ways that I've not thought of before, and able to do things sometimes a lot better than the old school way of doing things, to provide much, much better results or a much better product or outcome for people. So tell us, how'd you get started with this AI deal? And then how does it all work? And why would people want to invest with you and use that platform?
So everything started from the book, honestly. I was reading a book. It's called, maybe you heard, it's called Market Wizards. It's pretty old, and it's like a collection of books. And one of the books, they talked about computer algorithms in 1990s that used to trade stocks based on statistical analysis. So I was reading it. I was in college. I was kind of excited about learning that somebody's using actual mathematics from what I studied in school, and they can actually apply it to trade securities. So I started to dig into it, and I came across basically statistical analysis, right? Your regular bell-shaped curve, and you try to understand the volatility, try to understand the deviation of the price in a given segment of time. And from there, I honestly just pretty much built a mathematical formula, put it all in Excel first, because I had no coding skills at that time. So I put it all in Excel, connected to Google Finance, extracted data. So it was analyzing on its own through Excel. And it was spitting out signals. So I started to trade on those signals, try to see if it actually works. And I was surprised. It was giving pretty decent signals at that time. So I decided, okay, I need to backtest it now. And in order to backtest it, you have to write the code, like actual algorithm. And well, I sat down and started learning it. So I picked Python because it's a little bit easier for data analytics, and it's much more widespread. And back in the day, they used to have a Quantopian. It's like a website for backtesting, and they actually teach you how to write code. And now it's shut down, but at the time, it was a fantastic source. So I just sat down and started writing my mathematical formula into a computer code, and then connected it to the data, backtested it, and it actually showed pretty good, decent results. So I was in school, started talking to professors, other students. We used to have a student management fund. And unfortunately, they used only like fundamental analysis, no technical analysis, and not even like algorithm analysis at all. Nobody actually understood what I was doing. And when you try to explain people that you can apply statistics to kind of understand the price moves and find the signals to buy or sell a specific stock, and tell computer to do it instead of yourself, people freak out. They don't really, they just don't want to believe it's possible. So they try to use my models in some form or shape. It ended up being just, they would just send me some stocks. I would run my model on that specific stocks and just give them a result and tell them, okay, maybe it's a good idea to buy at this point, or maybe it's not a good idea. And then, I was just about to graduate, and I decided I want to do it because I see it works. I believe in it. And it's it's pretty much was built already. The whole thing was built. It's connected to Interactive Brokers, and it's trading on paper account. So I told myself, all right, I'll just take all my savings and start doing it. I believe in it. It's like my baby. It's like my product. I want to just keep doing it, keep going. And that's how it's going so far. So first year, 2020, I ended up with 19.5%. Second year was around 14%. Got to double check. And this year it's still pretty good. Despite all the volatility, it's pretty good. And I added some features with option trading. And it actually helps a lot to mitigate some volatility and try to cover some losses. And right now, again, despite all the ups and downs we see every day, it's being pretty stable. So,
have you went back in time and then like ran it through the dotcom bust and just ran it through the?
So I did. How far ago? It was since 2008. So for the past 12 years.
And then how did it do in that 08, 09, 2010?
Actually, so it all depends on the sector.
Sure.
Because different sectors behave drastically, differently. So, and it's a lot of things in statistical analysis relates on price moves. So if it's a lot of volatility, the model wouldn't trade because you cannot, the more volatility you get, the less predictable the price move, because it's too volatile, too spread. The prices are way too spread. So you are supposed to be looking for really smooth movement. That's the easiest one to predict. That's why a lot of hedge funds, they use their models to trade futures because the move is really smooth.
Sure.
You can not easily, but it's much more easier to predict the move of a future than a stock. And I just didn't have an option to use futures because it's really hard to get high quality data to analyze it. So I ended up just working on stocks, and again, worked out pretty well so far. And there are some sectors that are not good, and I try to avoid them. But sometimes some sectors perform well, sometimes not. So it all depends. But overall, in general picture, statistically speaking, again, because it's all based on statistical analysis, sure, I get about 60 to 65% correct signals, which lead to profits, and 40 to 35% wrong. So, and it ends up actually making money over time. And it's really short term. So I'm not buying and holding. The average holding time is no more than a day. So typically it closes position at the end of the day, or it holds until the next day. Sometimes if losses are significant, it uses options. It opens cover calls or cover puts, just to cover some losses, and holds it until the maturity of the option, which is, again, it looks for the shortest maturity, which is usually a week, maybe 2 weeks, depends on the stock. But I'm trying to trade big name stocks. By big names, I mean companies that have a really huge volume from typically it's about 1 million and up. So less volatility, more predictable moves, because again, the bigger the company, less chance you have to move it up and down just because. And usually I'm looking for prices, stock prices that's above like $15-20, because again, you don't want somebody to move the price just because. There are a lot of little things involved for daily volatility, for time period volatility, again, because you try to understand if the move is part of the long-term move and you can make money over a few days, or the move is just because of some kind of news came out and this price jumped up or down, which will actually ruin the model. So there are a lot of different things involved.
Yeah, you definitely have a lot of stuff that's taken into consideration. So let's talk a little bit about your ideal clients, the clients that are working with you. A couple of things. Number one, where do you find them? And then number two, what's the makeup of them, like demographically speaking, that you're normally working with?
So right now, mostly it's all my friends and family, because again, I'm pretty early in on my journey, and I'm trying to target people, I would say a little younger than typical advisor would look for, because again, I know that I'm young, and I have a long-term approach. So the person could be young, my age, maybe a little older, but I know if I get that client, most likely, I will do my best to keep the person with me for the next 20, 30 years. And that works out for me really well in long term. So my ideal client is somebody 25 to 35 years old, and people who are willing to work with somebody young. Because the problem is a lot of people look at me, they're like, oh, yeah, you're smart, but you're young. You don't know what you do. So it's really hard to convince somebody that just because I'm young, it doesn't mean I'm not smart enough to do the job.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say that, because we've had quite a few young advisors on here, right? And and it's they've learned how to address that, very well.
Well, you see, most of them work for some big name firms already.
So that was my next question. So talk a little bit about PG Capital and how you got involved with them. And
the firm is mine, so I started it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
the
what I was
company
wondering.
is mine.
Is PG Capital, is that your own firm? Well, because I mean,
well, I didn't want to. So my
PG
approach was so simple. It was I would rather work 100 hours a week for myself,
Sure.
making sure I can achieve something, than work for somebody else and they will achieve it. So it was like, I'm really hard. I love working. I work every day. I don't know. I just makes me feel comfortable. I just like working, analyzing information, learning things. So I decided, why do it for somebody else?
Yeah, in 2020, you launched your RIA, right?
Yes.
It's pretty impressive, man. And here's the thing, too, is like, we were just talking about this earlier. Like, there's lots and lots of, there's more millionaires being born today than ever before. I mean, just pop. They're popping like popcorn all over the place. And a lot of them are young, even younger than you.
Yeah.
Like developing apps and doing this kind of stuff. I don't know what you're doing on your marketing, but maybe Carter could help you, but because that's what he does. But like really targeting and what you're doing, using your age as an advantage, and looking for your avatar is that young millionaire, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, hey, I've got an algorithm over here that I've built. Like they hear the word algorithm, and you've got something you can show them. Hey, here's what it would have done for the last 12 years. Here's what's going on. Come over here and I'll give you good solid advice, and I can grow with you over the next 40 years before I retire. Right. That could be a really good niche for you, man. I don't know if you thought about that.
Well, it sounds good, and that's what I was thinking about. I would do, but in real life, again, people just when you start telling them about computer algorithm, they think it's a scheme. How many people told me that what I do?
Even the younger generation.
Mostly younger generation.
Really?
You know how many times I heard about Bernie Madoff?
Why are they so cynical, Pavlo?
I don't know. Probably because you see, I'm in such region. I'm in upstate New York, so most of the people are old, and young people grew up in that community.
Sure.
So I feel they don't feel comfortable investing in risky stuff.
So I still think there's a niche there, man, for you. I think like you can get on TikTok and start providing value and talk. I've got my algorithm. My algorithm rocks. It's like It just takes time. You see, it just takes time. And listen, it will be 2 years in March since I started the whole thing. And I launched RIA in December of 2020, which is a little more than a year. Right, so it just takes time, build step by step. But
Rome wasn't built in a day, right?
Yes.
So it takes a little bit of time to get the momentum flowing and everything. But the cool thing is that what I loved what you said earlier is that you believed in it so much you invested your own money in what it is you do. See, that conviction, as far as I'm concerned, that's the sell. I believe in it so much that I started my own company and I put my own money into it. Right. So why would I have a scam, if you will? Right. I mean, I get where people are coming from. They are cynical. And, obviously in New York, Bernie Madoff and all that stuff. I get it. Right. But you believe in it so much that you invest your own money into it. And this is your baby. Right. You can't imagine losing your own money. Right.
Right. Absolutely.
You've got all your eggs in the proverbial basket.
Yeah.
right? So I definitely think there's some opportunity here. And then with the fact that 2020 has forced so many people to get comfortable, like online. I was talking about this pre-show. You're not limited with technology to just Rochester, right?
I will tell you something right now. It's gonna blow your mind. 2 months ago, I started Robo-Advisor. That's exactly what you said. You can do it online. And right now, I have people who are working on the app. We just built a website, so you can actually, it's all connected to a broker. And I built some strategies, and it's all actual automated investing. So it's possible, absolutely. And I see there's a huge opportunity. More and more young people, they don't want to go to somebody in the office, sit down and talk. They actually feel intimidated. I feel like they don't feel comfortable.
Maybe you could hire some old dude and he could go out and sell your platform to other advisors.
Yeah. And so that's what I figured out. So there is opportunity in online world. And yes, there are big players right now. Betterment, Wealthfront, there are guys doing it, but there are still so many things you can add on top of your robo-advising stuff. And I'm working on it, and hopefully we'll get some funding, because it requires a lot of money for programming stuff, because you need to build the entire app and make it work correctly. It takes time, takes a lot of people, but it's a really great opportunity. Online it's like a next step. So I feel like in 10 years, things gonna change big time.
Oh, and you're
it's already changing.
Yeah, it's already changing. You're just getting started. That's the good news. I mean, you're half my age, right? So, if the old guy at 50 years old, and I just, celebrate.
I was going to say, Pavlo's not 40.
I wish I was. Wait, hold on.
Carter's looking good, man. You should.
For 80?
Looking good.
For 80,
I'm proud of him.
For 50, I'm doing all right. But
when I first met him, he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna drink beer," and I'm like, "You can drink beer," and then he's drinking water. So
here we go.
He waits until we get off air, and then he drinks beer.
But I definitely think that there's some things that we can do, like from a marketing company perspective, some things that I've learned, myself, as far as being able to acquire clients, which is that's our number one laser focus, is helping with client acquisition in the first place. And I think if you get the right type of messaging and drip campaigns and things of that nature, I think that you can definitely advance what it is you're trying to accomplish. And I think you've got a cool, unique story. You're very likable, so that makes it even easier. Because here's the thing: the reason why the podcast is awesome, I think, for you to be able to repurpose, is that people really do like to do business with those that they know, they like, and they trust. Right? So they're getting a chance to know you right now. So I think you could be able to really take advantage of not only this podcast, but obviously being able to get that out and repurpose that and everything. So I think you're sitting on a potential great opportunity. And you are young. It's going to take time and everything. But just out of curiosity, it's only been a year since you've really been raising money, right? Getting investors, right? So how has the growth been for you? Are you happy with the growth? I mean, obviously it can always be better, right? But I'm just wondering, do you feel like you're gaining any type of momentum?
So I will split it into two parts. So for hedge fund, I'm trying to do, right, for the algorithm, really tough because the problem is everybody is requiring at least 5 years of performance. That's the number one thing. Number two thing, big players like banks, investment funds, mutual funds, they want you to have at least 1 to 5 million under management in the fund, just to make sure that you can handle the money.
Sure.
And right now, that's the biggest part for me. I can do it for the next 3-4 years with my own money and build a track record, but it's really hard to find people, like small investors who will chip in for like 150, 200 grand to make $1 million. 10 people, I don't know, $100,000. Here you go. Here's my $1 million, and I can start doing it. But really hard for me because I'm foreigner. So everybody I know are my age or a little older. So they don't really have that capability. But that's, again, I'm working on it. With respect to RIA, it's doing pretty good. because now the year passed, so people started to notice me. People started to learn that what I'm doing and how I'm doing things. The word spreads, so I'm pretty happy with that. It's starts to actually, like a snowball. It starts to accumulate. So I like it so far. Of course, you want more. You should always try to get more people to know you, build more connections, and bring more clients in. But again, it just step by step takes time.
Yeah. Well, I think I have obviously off after the podcast, whatever. I think I got a few different ideas that I just got circulating in my head that I think may be able to help you to, grow your practice or at least bounce off some ideas. And this is 20 years of working with financial advisors all over the country talking here. So trust me, I know exactly where you're at right now. So anyway, Tim James, I know you're getting ready to take us to commercial break, so I'll allow you to do it.
Well, let's just do that because I'm excited to get to Pavlo's questions about health. So we'll do that. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
You want the absolute best for yourself, and you want it to be easy. That's why we created Green 85. It helps with detoxifying the body gently. We're proud it's chemical-free, unlike almost all other supplements you'll find. Bottom line, Green 85 will get you healthier. We look forward to hearing what Green 85 did for you.
To get this product and our other amazing products, go to chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here. I'm back with my co-host Carter Wilcoxon. He's still hanging on. He's on the back of the horse. Here we go. Another loop around the deal. So Pavlo, this is the chance where you get an opportunity to ask me any question about health. So we have the Health and Wealth podcast. This is the health segment. So what's your question, brother?
Let's start. So I'm the guy. I'm always taking like vitamins and stuff, and I typically take fish oil. And you're talking about essential oils. Can you just give me a little comparison between the two? And would it make sense to actually switch to essential oils? Would it be more beneficial?
Sure. So what are you exactly taking the fish oil for? What's the purpose?
Well, as far as I know, it's just, vitamins. It helps a little bit of digestion and just your immune system.
Okay. So typically when people are taking fish oil, it's because they've been told that that's where you get your good like omega oils,
right?
Omega-3 and omega-6 and stuff like that. And oil is very important. I mean, it's very important to have high quality oils in your body. You need it for, your skin. You're going to need it for your joints. You're going to need it actually for your cell. Around our cells, we have what's called a lipid membrane, or lipid means fat. So it's a fat membrane around the cell, and that membrane is today, unfortunately, is very compromised. Many of our clients come to us, and their cell membrane that fat membrane is not really good. So that means that nutrients have a hard time getting in. There's that exchange through that lipid membrane and waste matter getting out. So that's a major problem. Obviously, along the same problem with dehydration and cellular inflammation. All three of those impede nutrients coming in and waste matter going out, that exchange. So the fats are really, really important also for brain health. Your brain's made of what's called glial cells. They're basically just fat cells. So we need that. Now, there's two different camps on this. Now, I grew up hunting and fishing, so like I ate fish. So for people listening and stuff like that, in 2011, I went completely plant-based for 8.5 years, like living foods, like sprouted nuts, sprouted seeds. I still do most of that. I'll have a little salmon here and there. It's got to be wild caught. But the reality is that we need high quality oils, really high quality oils. Otherwise, you won't be as smart. You're not going to live as long, and things don't work as well. So omega-6s and 3s and 9s, these are all these different oils in there that our body needs. Here's the deal, is that because of the amount of chemical pollution today, and I always tell people, don't take my word for it. Look at the umbilical cord studies. You could type in 3 words, umbilical cord chemical, umbilical cord chemical, and then you'll see into your browser, you'll see the studies going back to 2005 showing every child being born has 250 toxic chemicals in them. 180 cause cancer in humans, 212 cause developmental brain disorders. So we're born polluted today. 74% of the rainwater today has glyphosate in it, which is the main herbicide ingredient in Roundup, which kills plants and also disrupts our metabolism as well. So plus automobile exhaust, aluminum particles, the chemtrails. There's just so many industrial waste, and there's all kinds of stuff, right? I mean, there's just pollutants out there. These microscopic deals are getting into our body. Now, as we breathe air and we drink liquids and eat food and put on cosmetics and shampoos and deodorants, all this stuff is going right into our body, and it's getting lodged in our fat and our muscles, tissue, and our blood. You go into the ocean, that's called bioaccumulation. But when you go into the ocean, all the little critters in the ocean are bioaccumulating in the water just like we are on land. But there's also biomagnification, because the little teeny tiny creatures, they suck up all the chemicals in their life, and then what happens? They get eaten by the bigger one. So the bigger one comes by and takes a chomp, and it's getting all the chemicals that little critter had in its entire life. And then guess what? The next one comes along and it grabs the next that little thing that ate the other one, and it took all the chemicals in its life and a little one too, and up the chain it goes until you get to the bluefin tuna and like the salmon nowadays, and they're just off the charts polluted. Not to mention that 74% of the fish and stuff have parasites in them. Like if you had sushi, like real sushi, the uncooked stuff, there's up to 10,000 parasite eggs per square inch in sushi today. So when people are like, well, but over in Okinawa, they live to, it's one of the blue zones actually, right? They live over 100 years. Well, up until about 200 years ago, they used to ferment the food, right? They would ferment it, and that would kill parasites. But today, these parasites have become so resilient, even 74% of them don't die in the cooking process, right? So in freezing. So it's just weird. These things are super crazy strong. So besides that, you have this bioaccumulation and biomagnification of toxins. That's the point. So when you go to get some cod liver oil, as an example, right? You have to understand these big ass ships, they go out and they have these nets and they catch these fish. Well, a lot of times, sometimes these fish will be dead in the nets for an hour, a day, 3 days. They pick them up and they throw them in the holding tank, right? Some of them aren't alive. And what happens is they don't gut them right on the spot. They don't gut them. They just put a fish on top of fish on top of fish until the thing's full and they take it back in. It's like this. It's like a press. Now, you mentioned earlier about essential oils. That's what they do in essential oils. They actually put them and they, steam distillation is one way. They heat it up with water and then they press all those essential oils out. Well, the fish are literally pressing on themselves. All the ones on the top are pushing on the bottom. So they're squeezing out all the innards and stuff like that, and the juices and the bio waste and, all the, basically the urine and the pee that's in them, and it marinates in the tissue. That's one example. Right. So that's, you're like, whoa, that's not cool. Right. Now, like, well, Tim, I've got line caught. It was alive. Okay, that's fine. Let's just go with the line caught thing. Let's forget about how most of it's brought in. But because it doesn't fall under USDA guidelines, it's considered wild. So there's just like really no laws for them. So here's the deal. When you have a fish like that, when a fish dies, Pavlo, what happens to that fish instantly? As soon as it dies, what starts happening to the body of the fish?
Deteriorates.
Yeah, deteriorates. Starts to decompose. It starts to break down the bacteria that are in the fish and that are in us and everywhere. We have about 60 trillion bacterial cells in our body. Some are good, some are part of our immune system, but they'll start breaking us down, taking us back into the soil where we came from. It's part of the cycle of life, right? Everybody knows this. So these fish, when they die, the fats inside them start decomposing. Okay. Now in nature, if you were out in a fishing stream like a grizzly bear, or not a grizzly bear, let's say a brown bear, and a salmon comes up and you grab it and you eat it, you're going to get it fresh, right? Right. Even though they have the ability to do that because they have a lot of acid in their gut. But that would be a fresh fish. That's why when you eat fresh fish, it's really good, right? Because the oil, everything's fresh in there. A day later, or freezing it, and it's completely different. So these oils are harboring all these chemicals. So when you extract the oil from like a cod liver oil or something like that, right? Or sardine or whatever, you're actually getting decomposing oils. Now, what happened was originally they thought that they were throwing these things away. And now they were using a byproduct to sell it to us as a health food. They do this in many things like whey protein and other things too. But what happened is people started taking it, but then they would burp. They would burp up and they would smell like this terrible fish smell. So then they had to put more chemicals in there to get you to not burp, anti-burping chemicals, and then anti-smell chemicals as well for the fish oils, right? So you have to look at those, right? So and then there's other things too, like the omega-3 to 6 ratio is like, I believe it's like, oh man, don't quote me on this. I used to know it, but it's like 1 to 11 or something like that. Whereas if you get it from a plant-based source, it's like a 1 to 3. So at the foundation of the ocean is plankton, right? So a lot of these little creatures, where does the oil actually get made in the beginning? It's from the sun hitting the plankton, and in the plankton it converts and makes these oils or fatty acids. So when you eat it from a plant, you're getting fatty acids. When you eat it from a fish, you're getting the fat. Your body then has to convert the fat to these fatty acids. So it's one extra step for the body. This is why it's really important for people to get, I believe, number one, to make sure that your omegas that you're getting are clean, right? So they don't go through that biomagnification process. And you get them, I just get them from plants. So I'll get mine from like flaxseed oil. You can actually get it from flaxseed itself. Red raspberry seed extract oil is very good. Eating an avocado, great forms of fatty acids. Sprouted almonds, sprouted walnuts. There's just so many other ways to get it. One of my favorite things is to make flax water.
What is that again?
It's called flax water, FLAX. You go to my website at chemicalfreebody.com and you search around a little bit. I'll pop up and say, hey, you want a free gift? If you do that, I'll send you an email, or I'll email you instant access to an ebook, and inside that ebook it has my flax water recipe in there, along with our core 4 secrets. But that is something that's great for gastrointestinal health, and it's a wonderful fatty acid that's already pre-digested, so your body doesn't have to labor to convert, right? And we have people that also, I'll give a props to this one company called E3 Live. Here in the state of Oregon, we have this lake called Klamath Lake, and we have this blue-green algae. It's there's nothing like it anywhere in the world. It's 54% protein, the highest protein content on the planet.
Wow.
The fatty acids in it are like the great grandfather of all fatty acids. They're amazing. And they actually have the one you want to get is called Brain On. That one has the ability to go through that blood-brain barrier and bolster and strengthen the fatty tissue of the brain. So why would that be important? Well, for somebody that wants to increase their IQ, that would be a smart thing to do. Bolster and strengthening the fatty tissue of the brain. Somebody that has MS.
Wait a second. Can I ask you a question? So you can actually improve your brain capabilities just because you control what you eat? That's what you're saying?
Absolutely. Yeah, think about it. Your body's an intelligent system, just like your algorithm.
Okay.
Right? So having an intelligent system, the inputs are going to determine the output or the quality of life. Just like if you had a car and you put in high performance fuel that it's built for, or you put in shitty gasoline with water in it. You see the difference? It's the same thing with the human body. So the higher quality materials that you can put as the input, the better the higher quality your output's going to be, and it's going to last longer. See, because what happens is when we have 85% of the nutrient in our soil are farmed out, people are overeating because they're hungry, because on a cellular level our cells aren't getting what they need, and they're down there clamoring, go eat, I need some nutrition, damn it, I need some of this, I need some of that. And you're eating, but you never really give it to them. No different than a starving child in Africa with a distended stomach and super skinny. We are exactly like that. The standard American is just like that starving child in Africa, except it's got a layer of useless calorie fat around it because of all the crap. You mentioned earlier, like sugar. I mean, sugar cane is the most sprayed crop in the world. Sugar beets, these are genetically modified. They disrupt the plant's metabolism. The plants start making formaldehyde. And you're consuming that shit in your body, and people just don't know. Nobody knows about this. Well, more people are coming around. I mean, it's definitely, people are waking up because they're tired of being sick and tired, and things are just not working anymore. Right. And we get a lot of these people coming to our movement about they're just like, I've tried everything, but I want to lose weight, or I'm tired of being in pain, or I don't want to die, And it's like, well, we don't make any promises, but we think that your body's an intelligent system. We think that you're an intelligent system, but you've handed your power over to whoever else and they've given you a pill as a solution, a synthetic pill that's acid-based and it's never going to work with your carbon-based body. So we believe in carbon-based solutions for your carbon-based body. It's really simple. So anyway, long story short, there's other ways to get the omegas and stuff like that. And I did mention, I will throw this out there because if anybody has multiple sclerosis or MS, that E3 Live Brain On is it's one of our staples in our protocol for people that have MS that we share. It works really well. In fact, I had a guy that was part of a Bible study, and he's like, I really want to help this guy Bob, and he's home now and he can't work. He's got this caregiver, and I said, well, have him try Blue Green Algae and take our greens product and take this. And he went and had him do that, and all of a sudden, I mean, the guy couldn't really walk. Wow. And he pulled up to do the Bible study with him, and Bob was walking across the street to get his paper. And the guy was like, Bob, he's like, this is awesome. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're walking. He's like, you're getting your paper. Well, and so it was really cool. Bob shows up on my doorstep at my house, unannounced. He's like, hey, I'm Bob. And he had his caregiver there with him. And he's like, I just want to let you know that he's like, the stuff that you shared with my friend that I've implemented has radically changed my health. Radically. I mean, the dude was like, basically in bed and barely walking around the house. And now he's able to get out and about again. So he was smart. He changed his inputs, right? He was open-minded enough to do that. So anyway, so to replace your fish oils with essential oils, that's kind of a separate thing. Essential oils are different than that. You're probably doing the fish oils you would want to replace it with flaxseed oil, maybe a little hemp seed oil from time to time, red raspberry seed extract, the great-great-grandfather of all omegas, Blue Green Algae, the Brain On from E3 Live Company, and then, sprouted nuts, sprouted seeds, avocados, and stuff like that. And you're going to get plenty of these good omega oils in the proper ratio for your body. And
so would you say it's better to actually eat real seeds or I don't know real food instead of just taking omega as itself? Or
well, you can do both. You can actually do both, but if you're going to take a supplement, I would prefer doing it a plant-based. And the reason why is I learned this a long time ago. The closer your food is to the sun, the healthier you're going to be. What does that mean? So remember, what's the closest to the sun? Is it the cod or the plankton? It's the plankton, because the sun hits the plankton and converts and makes those oils right there in the plant, and then it goes up the food chain to get to the cod. So the cod's getting it second hand, and you're getting it third, fourth, fifth hand by the time you eat the cod, right? So you can go directly to it. Now, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, back in the day before all this chemical pollution, a little bit here and there, not a big deal. And still today, okay, so I have a little cod liver oil or whatever. So what? Right. But it's just day in and day out supplementing with that stuff. There's a book out there called Supplements Exposed. And it really tells a lot about the supplement industry. I have on my podcast, I talked about why 98, actually the title was why 98% of supplements suck. And it's not just the ingredients, but it's also the other ingredients. So I don't have my label here with me, but look for things like magnesium stearate, silicon dioxide, dicalcium phosphate. These are three major binders, fillers, and flow agents that are really toxic. So, but anyway, now you did bring up essential oils. So essential oils are basically plant leaves, bark, plant gum, pitch. Like in the case of frankincense, that's that pitchy tar stuff that's coming out of the tree. And then people take this stuff out of nature and they concentrate it into these little oils. And they're very powerful. They're very powerful. A lot of them are antimicrobial. They can boost up your mood. I diffuse them in my room. So I'm breathing them in. They're going in through my airways and into my lung tissue and right into my bloodstream. I will put them on my wrist, behind my ears. I put lavender on my toe, like behind my neck if I want to sleep well. You can actually cook with them, right? So if you make a big pot of stew and you want to put oregano, like say, I know Carter over there was talking earlier about the Italians, right? And the Italian food. This blew me away. I put, you could take really good oregano and get it fresh, put it on there. You put a drop, like one little drop of essential oil in a big pot and one drop of rosemary and that thing will explode with flavor like you can't even imagine.
Wow.
It's
really?
Crazy. And if you get those utati oils, those things are so strong because they're first pressed. You just take that little that little dipper thing in there, and you don't even put a drop. You just barely touch it into the pan in there, and the whole thing explodes with flavor because it was so concentrated. It's unbelievable. So you can actually turn your soups into a healing soup, right? So you can take essential oils, you can put them on topically. Some of them would burn the skin, so you got to know which ones, because you might need what's called a carrier oil. Take something like coconut, and you'd mix it with coconut, kind of dilute it down so to carry it into the body without burning it, because it's very powerful stuff. Like clove and rosemary and basil. These things are freaking strong, dude. They'll knock the piss out of like viruses and stuff like that, and bacteria, when they're concentrated like that. So you can put them on topically. Some you can take orally. You can take them orally. That's something you can definitely do. Some of them you can take it aromatically, like through a diffuser, right? And you can also, like I said, orally, you can cook with them as well. There's just a lot of use for them. Also, essential oils can be used to clean. You can make your own cleaning products in your home, have a nice natural flavor. You know, back in the day, we talked about the pharaohs and stuff earlier. Essential oils were medicinal. They were always used for that kind of stuff. But some of the women were like, oh, wild orange, like that smells good. And then they started putting a little wild orange on, or maybe a little of the lotus flower on, because and they were using it as perfumes. But originally it started off as medicine. But unfortunately, most of the perfume companies now, they take the natural essential oil from this lotus plant or from the wild orange, then they take it to a lab and they synthesize it, and they make the chemical derivative so they can make huge profit margins, make it fast, and make a lot of it for cheap and sell it. And then a lot of people now are putting on their colognes, their aftershaves. Women are putting on these perfumes, and they don't realize that they're going right into the skin, poisoning themselves, breathing it in, and other people that walk around them are breathing these toxic fumes, and that shit's bioaccumulating in their fat and muscle tissue. But they think that, I smell great. Right, but that's where original perfumes and stuff like that came from, was essential oils. But it just got kind of weirded out.
That's an interesting story. I didn't know that. Huh.
So, with that said, what are you going to do with your fish oil now?
Well, I'm going to look into what you said. It's got to be without toxin. Oh my God, I wrote it down somewhere. Magnesium and stuff. So it's got to be like clean.
Yeah,
so hopefully I will be able to find it.
I think it's called Why 98% of Supplements Suck. I can't remember the episode, but
I wrote it down. I will actually look it up. I will read the book.
And then what about the essential oils? Are you thinking you might want to incorporate that in your life?
I'll take a look. That's interesting, because that's something I actually never even I heard about it. I just never even thought about it. So it's something to consider for sure.
Yeah, it's just another version of way to self-care. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, and the good news for you, Pavlo, is that you really just came off the showroom floor not too long ago, right? So you're still a new car.
Yeah, and let's keep it that way. That's what you want to do. You want to set yourself up, because a lot of the financial advisors, you look at them, they got distended stomachs, their health's not that good. And that's what our big message here is the Health and Wealth Podcast is. It doesn't really matter how much money you have if you don't have your health. You're screwed. Right. You don't have anything. Confucius had that quote. He's like, a healthy man wants 1,000 things, right? But a sick man wants one. Yeah. And we want people to have both, right? So that's what we do. Carter helps the advisors crush their business, and those advisors they get to help their clients protect their money and do a great job, and and do their succession planning, which is very important, that estate planning part that everybody thinks that they don't have enough money for, but everybody needs the trust to protect themselves and their family from all kinds of, hopefully, things that will never happen to them, but they do happen. Terry Shrivo, we all talk about that case. It's kind of a historic case. It's almost brought up in I think every financial advisor talks about that if they're trying to pitch a trust to people. Mm-hmm. But we just want to help people. If you're going to have this experience in this time, space, reality, why not have it all? Why not have excellent health? Why not take care of your finances, have great relationships with your kids, your family, yourself? And why not have a good spiritual practice? And also have and feel that connection to you and Mother Earth, because we come from there. And I think people are just disconnected, and they don't realize that we are nature, right? And that's why we have so many problems today. We just got to raise our consciousness, get back to nature, and get back to ourselves and back to the people that we care about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. Well, that's a great segue for letting our enrichers get on out of here. First of all, I want to thank Pavlo Huda or Guda, depending on what if you want to say, the proper way. But I think that's an interesting story, and people like interesting stories, right? So I think you could probably get more clients just from talking about, what's the difference between Huda and Guda. Come in.
Right.
But I want to thank you so much for coming on to the Health and Wealth Podcast. Hey, enrichers, if you want to be able to go and listen to and watch any of our previous guests as well, we will definitely have Pavlo's podcast out fairly soon. I'm looking forward to that. But to be able to hear any of our previous podcast guests, go to our website, www.thehealthandwealthpodcastshow.com. And then obviously like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google. For my fantastic co-host, Mr. Chemical Free Body himself, Tim James, I am Carter Wilcoxon, CEO and founder of Epic Services Company, as well as CSI Financial Group. Wishing you all a very wonderful and fantastic day, the rest of your week. Have a great time being able to enjoy all of these shows. And Pavlo, thank you again so much for coming on to the show. It was very enlightening, and hopefully you got a chance to learn some stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks, Pablo.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Hey, enrichers. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Carter Wilcoxon.
And I'm your host, Tim James. And by God, we are committed to helping you guys have fat wallets, flat bellies. So tune in again for another episode, and make sure to like, share, and drink a lot of water.
Or beer.
You have just listened to the Health and Wealth Podcast with Carter and Tim.